Welcome back to the Divine Now. I'm glad to be with you this evening. A couple thoughts I want to share with you. Well, actually, just one main thought, and I'll frame this as a question. What is identity? And I've been sort of, working with this question throughout the day. We are identified by so many different things. We are identified by um, our groups, ethnicity. We're identified by sex, our gender, um, even our opinions, politically or non politically. We are identified by um, our last names. We are identified by so many different things. And it's difficult for us to determine who we really are as individuals. And I'm starting to wonder if this whole idea of identity is in some ways an illusion. The illusion that I have an identity. Not that I do not have an identity, but my identity is attached to the identity of other people. And my identity is attached to opinions about that identity. But very rarely are we given permission to find our own name, to discover our own truth, to carve our own identity and name it for ourselves. And that takes a tremendous amount of courage. I think of so many people who have had to announce to their families what was really taking place in their private worlds, whether it was sexually, religiously, and philosophically. And once they gained enough courage to share that with their family members, how many people have been rejected by family and in many cases by friends because they were just simply being honest with who they were discovering about themselves, what they were choosing to identify themselves as. So when we talk about this notion, this illusion of identity, how do we really discover who we are or who we choose to be, minus the pressure from outside sources to tell us what that should look like? How do we accomplish that? Well, I think there are many ways, but I think they're very difficult. One of the things that I've discovered in talking with people recently and reading is that many people are lonely. Many people are chronically lonely. One out of four, I think, is the number. People, at least in the U.S., will say that they are lonely. They feel by themselves, and I wonder if people feel lonely because they have to hide who they really are, or maybe they don't feel as though they are permitted to really reveal all that they are, what they really think, what they really feel, the inner workings of their soul and spirit and their thoughts, and put it on the table, put it out there in the world, and see what happens. I think many people are lonely because they feel they have to hide, cover up their true selves. And I wonder if we found ways to connect more, to be honest, if we had the courage to strip away the illusion of identity and not hide behind our ethnicities, not hide behind our genders, not hide behind our political affiliations, not hide behind our religions, and really get skin to skin with who we are. And I wonder if we had the courage to have these kind of open conversations with people in our lives, if we could really begin to create connection, if we could give each other permission to be real, if we could connect and maybe feel less lonely. That's really hard because we have a society that's rooted in group identity. We are what the group says we are. And if the group doesn't like where we're going or doesn't approve of the new thoughts that we're offering, then we get rejected by the group. I've experienced that. I've experienced that in my transformation from being one type of spiritual person to being another type of spiritual person. I've um, found it hard finding my own identity. I'm no longer the traditional Christian I used to be that others think I should be, though I still believe in God. I still have a Christ awareness, but it's a lot different than, say, it was 20 years ago, 10 years ago. I have great friendships with atheists. I'm not an atheist, um, but I appreciate what they offer the world. I honor them, but I'm not that. So, who am I? I'm not what I used to be. I'm not what this group says I should be, and I'm not what this group says I should be. How do you find identity? Courage, and with the permission to tell your story and see who that might connect with, who you might resonate with, who you might share vibration with and connect. I think that one of the first ways that we can begin to strip off the illusion of identity is to get honest with ourselves, begin to wrestle with that self. I love the verse in the Bible where it says that Jacob wrestled with God and won. How do you wrestle with God and win the match? That's like me stepping into the ring with Mike Tyson when he was at his prime, thinking I could beat Mike Tyson. Who beats God? What does that really mean? I believe that it could possibly mean that Jacob had to wrestle with the divine, wrestle with God to find his own name. If you remember in the story in the Old Testament, when Jacob wrestled with God and he won, when he discovered himself, his name was changed to Israel. He went from Jacob to being called Israel. I wonder if maybe one of the ways in which we can discover ourselves is actually wrestling with the divine and coming out alive, coming out whole, coming out new, coming out transformed. That takes courage. And it takes courage to sort of walk away from group identity to find a more authentic identity. Something to think about. And as you are sort of processing connection, processing loneliness, processing your own truth, maybe a part of finding connection with others is first finding connection rather with your own self, and then having the courage to connect with others in an honest way. Food for thought, something to ponder. Thanks for listening. Again, this is the Divine Now, and peace to you.